We got involved in Alpha really out of desperation. 12 years of just being about ourselves, we just reached a place of dissatisfaction with church. We knew there was more to it than what we were experiencing. We knew that we were supposed to be impacting people who were outside the church, and we just weren't doing it. We took a team to the Alpha conference. And so that was our first introduction to Alpha. We came home from that conference and began to run the course immediately. As a senior pastor, getting vision for Alpha as a tool for evangelism was huge, because if I wasn't going to be running out in front, I knew the people weren't going to follow. I could not hand that off to someone else. It had to come from me. And so I became very passionate about it and was able to recruit a team, a leadership team who was equally as passionate for the unchurched, and they're the ones who ran that first course with me. It was an absolute success from day one. Not that we did everything right. I really do think it was just a move of God. It was the right tool at the right time, because we were already in the throes of a culture change in our church, trying to move from that inward focus to outward focus. And so it gave us something to do. It gave people a place to invite folks. It gave us a vehicle through which we could actually become a little more outward focused. And so the first Alpha was primarily promoted as something for the unchurched. We had a value for the unchurched, for people who were disconnected from God, but we didn't have any avenue to connect with them. Alpha gave us the way, the place where we could be in the same room with them, in the same setting, and be able to express that value of a concern for people who are disconnected from God.
The impact that it has on the Christians who are already in your church and the impact it has on their lives, it can be incredibly dramatic.
It's raised a whole new group of leaders in the church. People go through Alpha and they have a life-transforming experience. They're filled with the Holy Spirit. If they begin by taking part in the next Alpha with us, working as helpers and then leaders. They go on to be small group leaders in the church. And it's infectious, because once they become excited about their relationship with God, they're not just involved in Alpha. They take other ministries of the church, or other outreaches, and they just begin to explode. My idea is, if it works for me, it'll work for anybody, because we're just an average, ordinary church here that's just seen tremendous success because of it. So we're really fully committed to equipping any part of the church that wants to be equipped with Alpha. And we've invested heavily in it now in the way of time, energy, and resources to see that happen in the U.S. and abroad. Alpha is just a tool, and I think it's one of the best tools. Not the only tool, but it's one of the best out there. That's why we're so passionate about it. We are not just promoting the Alpha brand. That's not it at all. It's a tool, and when you run it the way it's designed to run, with this kingdom DNA, it just works. So why wouldn't you want to share that with everybody? I tell other pastors, if they want to see their church be effective, if they want to see their mission fulfilled, then they absolutely need to have Alpha. If not Alpha, something like it. Because so many pastors I run into, they're just like me. For 10 years, I wanted to see the unchurched come to Christ, but most are not seeing it. And so I tell them, here's a wonderful opportunity. You're introduced to this tool called Alpha, and it just begins to change the culture inside the church. People now can't wait for it to start, because they want to invite their friends and their family. Well, that culture's changed. And even the church itself changes, because previously they wouldn't invite people to church. Now they're even inviting them to church. Why? Because of Alpha, we're actually doing church a little different than we did before. It's a little more friendly to people who don't know Christ, but it's very dynamic and engaging when they get here. So church changes, and I don't think we would be doing the things in our community that we're doing today if we had not gone through the process of Alpha transforming lives, transforming the church, and now perhaps really transforming a city. In addition to that, we're actually taking it globally. We didn't have a global mission, and now we're actually sending teams overseas to do what? To train pastors to use Alpha in their context. When Hurricane Katrina struck, I'm sure that we would have responded in some way to the needs of our community, but probably not in the ways that we have responded. When the hurricane hit, our hearts were so changed for the people in the community that the needs were obvious. You didn't have to ask anyone what the needs were, and the church just naturally flowed right outside the doors. We weren't inviting people in, we were sending people out, and that's been going on ever since. I would say if you're not seeing the results you really want to see in people converting to Christianity, then I would kick it up a notch. I mean, I would go all out with it. I'd make sure that I got my senior leadership on board, and I would absolutely almost overemphasize it for a season. I mean, most of the time in churches, that's what we have to do. We want to see something launched. We have to get the senior leader behind it, overemphasize it to the point that you almost make some people upset, but really pour your resources, your time and your energy into it, and do it the way it's supposed to be done, and stay committed to it. I think too many people quit too early. I decided I was going to run at least 3 of them before I would decide whether I would continue. And once it's rolling, and once it's operating the way that it should, it will absolutely transform the church. When you become a part of the network of Alpha churches, and all that is it's relationship with other people who have the same passion you do, and they're using the same tool you're using with the same kind of effectiveness, I'll tell you, it makes you have a love for the whole church. I mean, not just locally, but around the world.
We have an opportunity to once again reach out to the people that matter most to God.
Doesn't matter which branch of the church or where it's located on the earth. I think evangelism has brought us together like nothing else could possibly bring us together. So when we run Alpha and we get together and we talk about it, we feel like we're a part of something bigger than ourselves.